Nancy. We have Suad. Are you the person who joined us?
Yes.
Did I say your name correctly?
Excuse me?
Did I say your name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, great. I'm Rebecca. Nice to meet you. I'm glad to have you here.
Nice to meeting you. Mm-hmm.
Suad, where do you work at?
I'm working at Dona Anna Community College,
lovely.
teaching ESL for adult education.
Perfect. Okay, great. That's very good. All right, we will see who we have here. We're at 12:01, so I think, Bill, do you want to give it like one more minute and then we'll go ahead and just start?
Sure.
Okay. I'm sorry?
Sure.
Okay. And see, I can see if I can get my screen shared here.
Oh.
All right. Actually, I think I need to change this a moment because I don't like that format. Like when I'm sharing in that format, no.
Doesn't look right.
All I can see is the presentation. I can't see the participants. How come that's happening?
Online.
Do you want to try and share it, Bill, instead of me?
Okay.
I
think we're getting some background noise from your microphone. Is there a door open or?
From mine?
No, I think from Soad.
I don't understand. What do you want to say?
Do you have like your door open or something? Because we're hearing what's happening in your house or in your office.
So I can turn my microphone until while you are talking. Okay.
Okay, perfect. That will work too. All right. We're going to talk together as a group a little bit as well, though. So, Bill, do you want to try and bring up the slide presentation instead? Because all I see is on the presentation and not the participants. I don't know why. Hello, Nadia.
I'm not seeing the share screen. Well,
oh, you know why? Am I listed as the host?
I think you might be the host.
Okay. And I don't have an option for you to share?
I don't see it.
It should be set where anyone can share their screen. So it's the square with the up arrow, Bill, like in
at the bottom. Do you see it? Let me see this really quickly, and I can try sharing it through a window and seeing if that.
Yeah, I can't see the participants, but that's okay.
Oh, you can't either? No. Tina, is that a thing that we can't see the participants if we share our screen?
That should not be a thing with Google Meet. No.
Yeah.
Unless they changed settings recently.
Okay. I don't.
Maybe it's on view.
I'm sorry?
Maybe it's on the view.
I don't know. I just checked the settings really quickly, the host control, or like the controls and stuff like that real quickly, and I didn't see it.
Yeah, everyone should be able to share their screen. Everyone should be able to send chat messages. And
oh wait, maybe if I do it this way. Okay. Nope, that's not what I want to do. There was a picture-in-picture thing. All right. Well, we're going to have to just do with what we got. Okay. Welcome, 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 everybody. We are happy to see you for our first of the school year webinar for the TSTM group. Okay. And so do you want to share screen, Bill, or do you want me to?
I will.
All right, thank you. So Bill is going to share our presentation. The first activity that we're going to be doing in the presentation was originally designed for breakout groups, but since we have just 3 participants, we'll be a breakout group in this way because Bill and I are the presenters, and then one that says DELT webinar is Tina. She is our supervisor. So, all right. Are you sharing the screen, Bill?
I believe I am. I thought I was.
Okay, participants, you're going to have to help me out. What are you seeing? Are you seeing the Google Meet?
I can't see the screen, Bill.
Okay, this is wackadoo today. Bill, let me try and do it and see if I can do it. Okay. All right. Do you guys see a screen where it says ABE funding and our students?
Yes, it's there.
Yes,
Okay.
it's there. Uh-huh.
See the
Perfect.
participants on the side too, so congratulations.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I can see the participants on the side.
I can't.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on. All right, we have technical issues. We're going to go ahead anyways, in spite of our technical issues. So the first thing we were going to do is meet a partner in the breakout room. But since there's 3 of us, we're going to do it this way. So we'll just give everybody the opportunity. We'd like you to introduce yourself, and then we would like to talk about these 2 questions. The questions are, how are adult education classes, and adult education is broad, it includes the high school equivalency, ESL, integrated training classes like iBest or career pathways, and citizenship. And then the second question is, what do you think your students understand about adult education funding? And because of the way we're having the this, I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment so we can actually discuss together. All right. But yeah, so what are, first of all, if each person wants to kind of come on camera and let us know who you are.
Okay, I can start.
Yes, go ahead, Swad.
Okay, my name is Saad, and I am teaching ESL at Dona Ana Community College in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I attended this class to learn more about the lesson plan, all of this stuff. And nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Perfect. So the second part a little bit is what do you already know about the adult education funding, and what do you think your students might know about that?
In fact, for me, I am an instructor, not administrator. So maybe I have no idea about this, but I think the director, she's working hard to get grant and the funding. And I think my student did not know anything about this.
Perfect. Thank you so much for
You're
sharing. All right. Nadia, do you want to go next? You're silent, Nadia. Which is weird because it doesn't show you on mute, but you're silent.
This feels like a Monday.
What? It's a Monday?
Yes.
It's a Monday of technical difficulties.
Nancy, go ahead then.
All right. Yeah, we'll give you a minute, Nadia. Nancy can answer. Okay.
Okay, so my name's Nancy, and I teach ESL when we have ESL students. I teach lower level English skilled HSE students, the ones who test in at level 2, for instance. And I work for Western in Deming. As to funding, I know that we get money from the state, we get money from the federal government, comes from different agencies. I think the Department of Labor at least has in the past funded some. I know that directors try to get grants, and I don't think my students know anything about that at all. I think I've maybe mentioned it a couple times. when I'm talking to them about why we're having to do workforce stuff, or why, workforce preparation, why we're doing certain topics, well, because that's part of what we get money to do. So that's why I'm doing it. So that's the only thing they would know about it at all, I think.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm so excited to see ESL teachers here. I'm an ESL teacher too. All right, Nadia, go ahead. You got it? No sound today. Nadia, how could you possibly be silent? All right. Nadia, I have no idea. Okay. Nadia, if you would like to go ahead and let me see, it says all muted. I don't want to mute everybody. Okay. So how is this working? I can't unmute you. All right. So Nadia, if you want to participate in chat, feel free. All right. So for those of you who are new to Google Meet, you should have a chat section on the right-hand bottom strip on your computer, as long as it's not a Mac. If it's a Mac, I can't help. I have no idea. Right?
Still on the lower right, it's a little box with the squiggly lines.
All right, there should be a little box where you'll see like a blue chat box. So Nadia, what do you teach or what do you do? How are you involved with the program? And what do you and your students know about ABE funding? And that's a whole lot of stuff to put in the chat. So please don't write a book,
Yeah, not an easy question. Not easy questions to answer in a chat.
No, they're not. No, but what I'm trying
Unless
to
the
show
answer
you,
is nothing, and then it's pretty easy. But
right. But what I'm trying to show you is how we on the fly fix our students have a technical issue and it does not work. I do have a student, one or two, who usually participate fully in chat based on whatever their technical situation is. While Nadia is doing that, Bill and I will kind of briefly introduce ourselves. My name is Rebecca Sherry. I work with the ESL program at CNM. I teach ESL, I teach ESOL, and I teach primarily with a program where we're helping the early childhood teachers who speak Spanish to learn English at the same time. And Bill, you want to introduce yourself, and then we're going to check in with Nadia in the chat, okay?
Okay, my name is Bill. I teach at Western New Mexico University along with Nancy, or at least we did across the hallway, but I'm teaching a completely online asynchronous course out of Las Cruces. And one thing I would say is that we're experimenting with the rolling enrollment, which we introduce students every 2 weeks, and thus far it's been pretty successful. So we'll see what happens. So back to Nadia.
All right, and so Nadia has kind of added her introduction in the chat. Nadia, can you also add which program you work for? Nadia is working as an instructional designer coordinator, and she knows about WIOA. WIOA is the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act, and she's at Albuquerque Adult Learning Center. I love what you said here. Anecdotally, some students were shocked to know how little their teachers are paid. Surprise, surprise. And I think also shocking to them is the fact that many of us as teachers don't have full-time jobs, that many of us are working on a part-time capacity. Not all, but many of us are, okay? And yes, sometimes the students end up making more money than we do. All right, you guys can kind of check in and read a little bit more about what Nadia wrote, and then I'm gonna bring up our slides, and Bill is going to talk to us a little bit about ABE funding. There we go, Bill.
There you go. Thank you, Rebecca. This is just a snapshot of adult ed funding, sort of what I would call the 3,000-foot view. Before we really get into the weeds there, if you were going to do this as a handout in your lesson plan, I want to point out a couple of things. First of all, there's text, because some students have a learning preference for text. And we should, be cognizant of that. Second of all, color, hopefully it'll intrigue them. And thirdly, with the graphics, you may even get, a student that says, hey, I would really like to do this. Can you teach me how? And that would be a good segue into a digital literacy topic lesson plan. But, we're looking at year 2021 to 2022 as far as funding for adult basic ed goes. Our total funding package comes up to $11.6 million. And that's comprised of a federal amount of $4,800 million. New Mexico contributes $6.5 million. And then the state of New Mexico also funds what they call IELCE, or Integrated English Language and Civics education. And mainly that's toward the immigrant population that we're now seeing there. It's just a slice. I think it's about, 2%. Funding varies year to year. We were down last year. Hopefully the governor, I've seen where she's going to put in a increased allotment for adult ed funding. This does not show any program income or contributions by, say, Western New Mexico or NMU or UNM. And it also does not show any allocation for instructional materials. So just the big picture type thing that you may want to present for your students. Rebecca? Any questions on that, by the way?
I think the one thing that's really key as a takeaway from this is that, well, there's two things I would say are key takeaways. One, most of our programs are both federally and state funded. A few of our programs fall into only one or the other for various reasons that are probably more complicated than this webinar. And when we look at this amount, $11.6 million, Tina, if you are available, can you tell us how many programs that's covering?
I can. There are 26 programs funded through the AFLA funding. So
right.
AFLA, and that's a term we've been using more often lately, is the AFLA funded programs, because now we also have the adult literacy programs under that same umbrella, and they have a separate pot of funding. So this is, AFLA stands for Adult Education and Family Literacy Act.
And those are typically our programs which are offering classes as opposed to programs offering only tutoring. So when you see the number 11.6 million, keep in mind how many programs are dividing that funding. All right, let's see here. Okay, so Bill, you want to take this question too? This is where we're going to have everybody kind of contribute their thoughts on this.
Sure. So, the question before us is, why should students care about where class funding comes from? What if something was cut from our, program that the students really like? Let's say, for instance, right now I speak for the HSE side, but with some of the ESL teachers, you may want to, chime in on something that is given to your program. But currently, if a student is going to sit for the HSE exam and they take the practice GED test and achieve a level of 150, or I believe it's 8 on the high set, the state will actually give them a voucher to take the real test. And, to pose to the question to the students is, well, what if that were taken away? What would be the impact there? So why should they care about that? What if it did go away? Anyone? Are there any?
Sorry, Bill, can you repeat the question?
Oh, we got you, Nadia.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of technical fiddling, so I apologize. I missed some of the question that Bill asked, so I was just wondering if you can repeat it.
Well, the question, before, why should students care about where class funding comes from? In the HSE side of our program, if a student passes the practice test with a passing score, the state will then issue a voucher. What if that funding were taken away? I mean, that would definitely impact them. What do they need to do about that? Or what could they do about it?
What could students do about that? That would be really participate in a democratic process, contact legislators, other politicians to make aware of who needs this funding and why and how it affects people.
Especially how it affects them.
Yeah, especially. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but talking to our intake coordinator, he's told me that there are a lot of people that ask how much the HS, well, they use the term GED, and they're really surprised to learn that they can get a voucher. They just expect to pay for it, and expect to pay for our program, which our program is free. So that's another kind of level on that is not only is this free, but we do have this funding for you, right? And I think that's something that some students just don't expect.
No, I put it out right out front. But the caveat is they have to pass it with a passing grade. So more incentive for them to put the pencil to the paper, so to speak.
Oh, I like that. You pay us in grades. That's a good point.
And just to be clear for people who are newer to our system, that's an actual fact. That's not just like a cute sentence to say. We receive our funding in part based on how our students do on those performance tests, the CASAS tests or the TABE tests, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the factors that goes into how each individual program is funded across New Mexico. So for my ESL teachers, I would kind of pose this question to you. If we ourselves moved to a different country, are language classes available in those countries? Like I'm thinking if I move to Mexico, are Spanish language classes available for free or low cost to help me learn Spanish in that country? I'm curious. Do you guys know?
In my experience, I've never run across them. They're used to, but I'm talking 40 years ago. There used to be some minimal classes offered, sometimes through embassy groups or whatever, but I don't think as a rule, I don't believe they're offered. No.
I would say I actually lived in Sweden for 2 years, and English was one of the 2 classes I passed, and actually the teacher in the class actually used me to demonstrate the language. But no, they did not translate or offer anything in Sweden at that time.
Suad, please share your experience.
Yes, also in Egypt, for example, because I am originally from Egypt, so they did not offer teaching English language, but maybe they can make adult education for the Arabic language. Maybe it could be free, but for the teach English, no.
Right.
They have to be.
You are answering more of my question, Suad, because in Egypt, Arabic is the primary language of Egypt. And so are Arabic language classes offered to people who are new to the country?
No, they have to be. It is not.
Right. So we do have a really interesting system here. And I know it's replicated in some other countries, but where we're providing English classes for our new immigrants at zero or very low cost. I mean, our classes cost considerably less than even the institutions which have registration fees. It's considerably less than if you go to take English, whatever English 101 is at your partner institution. You're talking hundreds of dollars there versus, a $10 to $20 registration fee in some classes. So the other part of the question then is, if you were to choose to teach your students about our funding process, what relevant and transferable skills would they learn? And when I'm asking that question, it's like our students didn't come into our program to learn how we're funded. They come into our program with their own personal goals. In English, those goals are going to be things like learning how to speak English better, or, you know, something like that. In HSE, it's going to be learning the skills that will help them to pass the GED or the high-set exam. So if you teach about this topic in your class, what will your students learn that supports their goals?
From that sense, it could go in a few different ways. I mean, the most obvious is math, learning, looking at charts, looking at funding. Those are some math problems to figure out already, right? Is if if all of adult ed gets $11.6 million, how there's 26 programs, how much does each program get, right? That's something pretty simple. Also, kind of looking at funding as a whole, that could be an integrated social studies and math question right there, right?
Right. It's a social studies math question. Also starts incorporating critical thinking skills. And we're going to get to that in just a moment, because we're going to be talking about questions of comparison and evaluation. Okay. We have a new person who joined us. Nancy, I believe, is that your name? It keeps showing us just N, which is super confusing for me.
It is Nancy Redhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Nancy. Are you here with us? I'm not sure what's going on. Well,
Technical difficulties.
Nancy, feel free to jump in once everything is together. Nancy Redhouse. Now I've got two Nancys. Okay. This is so funny, you guys. We don't typically in our presentations get two of the same name. I'm more used to my classes where I have multiple people with the same name. All right. I'm going to call on the ESL folks again. What skills would you learn, or what skills would your ESL students be picking up if you started talking about this topic in the classroom?
Anytime with whatever topic you're talking about, students are getting exposure to the language and to different concepts, vocabulary, and all of that. They could do reading and writing and everything. Also, like as Bill said earlier on with the charts on the first slide that he was talking about, you know, those digital skills are important, and that's something that you could also do, is just give them the practice doing things like that, working with spreadsheets and creating graphs and charts and stuff. So there's the good thing about ESL is that you can teach any topic and your students can learn, because it's all English. I mean, as long as you're teaching in English, it's all English. So
yeah, as long as you're specific with your students about what you're hoping that they're going to gain from the lesson. Like, you can't just generically throw English out and hope people pick it up. You have to be somewhat systematic about what you're doing. You know,
sure,
you're exactly right. Any topic is available to us, really. All right. Swat, is there anything you'd like to add with that?
Yes, of course, for me, I'm trying to create critical thinking for them. So I think now, from now on, when we talk about the funding, we create awareness, and let them thinking about what's going on around them. Most of them, their knowledge is not that much specific with Civics or the system in the United States. So when we teach them that, I think we create awareness for them about what's going on, why this program is, and at least we can motivate them to succeed.
Perfect. You're exactly right. That was what I was really hoping someone would bring up. This is a systems lesson. starts to talk about the structure, the systems that we have in the United States for funding education. And there's different ways that we can look at how we're going to do that. Nancy Redhouse, are you able to join us? We have serious sound issues today, I believe. Okay. All right. Nancy Redhouse, if you want to answer any of the questions in the chat or out loud, it would be perfect. Okay. Not sure how the sound is going. All right. We're going to go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay. So, in the TSTM lesson toolkit, which is, I'm sorry? Okay. In the TSTM lesson toolkit, which is something that it's a full set of lesson plans that are developed for ESL and HSE, and it was developed by the American Institutes for Research. And so that's the training that Bill and I participated in originally, and we want to share some of that with you. Within their toolkit of lesson plans, they have a lesson plan called Raising Public Awareness of Adult Basic Education. And very briefly, I'm going to tell you the outline of that lesson plan, and then we're going to take a moment to try out one of the activities together. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll go ahead and show you where you would find the full lesson plan, everything written out for you, all the supporting materials you would need to conduct this in your own classroom. And it is a lesson plan that addresses both, I think it's listed for adult basic education and and ESL. So let me see, what has it got? CCR levels. Yeah. So if you're teaching high level HSE, you might have to level up a little bit some of the material. But if you're teaching the intermediate or lower level ABE HSE, you would be fine. So this lesson plan starts out with a think, pair, share activity where you're going to put your students into probably pairs. And it's titled Meet the Problem. And really what it is you're posing the questions to the students. How are we paying for our classes? Who's paying for our classes? And how do we pay for K-12 education in the United States? And what's the comparison between the money that we spend on K-12 education and the money that we spend on the ESL and HSE system? And how that funding looks. So this is just really a way to activate your students' prior knowledge about and prior experiences, bringing their own personal connection into the lesson and helping to make it personally relevant for them, okay? The second step in the lesson is a jigsaw reading. And if you're not familiar with that term, what a jigsaw reading is when you divide up a reading piece and you assign different sections of it to different groups or different pairs, or even different individual students if you have a small group. And they read only their section. And then their job is to read their section, understand it, and teach it out to the rest of the group. So it's a way to get through a longer reading in a class period, or with students who don't have the skills to get through the full reading themselves, like where it would take them 2 hours to complete the full reading. You can do the whole thing in 30 minutes, by dividing it up in that way. So this one is called Setting the Public Agenda, and this reading is included in the lesson plan. And that's actually what we're going to take a look at. And what Setting the Public Agenda addresses is it really looks at how we communicate with our leaders in the United States and what role citizens and people living in the United States have in that communication process. From there, you would have probably, if I were conducting this lesson, I would go ahead and just keep the same groups because I don't want to spend the time of reassigning groups. You would have your students in group work use the internet to explore knowns and unknowns about the educational funding system in the United States. So this is the point where they find that information that's on Bill's slide, Bill's earlier slide about New Mexico adult ed funding. Or perhaps you might share that with them, because that might be a real trick to find that one. But they can find out information as well about how education's K-12 education is funded in their state. You can direct them to look for specific pieces of information, like, for example, what is the per student funding in the K-12 system in your state versus the per student funding in the adult educational system in your state, in New Mexico. That's a very interesting comparison when you see how much money goes towards the K-12 system and that per student funding. Within this step 3, I have a 3A, and the reason for the 3A is that as the students are doing this group work, the teacher role is really monitoring groups, but also providing both language support, especially if this is an ESL class, providing some sentences out to the students which talk about how to explain words for data, or how to explain comparison for data in English. And you also probably want to provide note-taking support for your students in the form of some type of a graphic organizer to help them just organize their thoughts about this, so that they have the ability to keep track of their information. Okay. The fourth step then that we have in the lesson plan is that we would direct our groups to generate solutions to this question, like how can we get more funding for our ABE programs? Along with generating the solutions, we want to bring in that critical thinking. So we want students to start comparing and evaluating solutions. Which ones are likely to be effective? Which ones are likely to get the result that you're hoping for? Which are reasonable to pull off with the resources you have available? Okay. So those are all possibilities right there. And then the fifth step of this process is to take an action. And when I say take an action, it's probably going to be a public action. So things like writing your legislator to talk about the importance of funding for this program. The students can use their personal stories to talk about the importance of funding for adult education programs in general. Okay. Or doing a community education process where you're showing your community, you're showing other students within the program how we fund adult education funding, how much money adult education receives in comparison with public education, for example, K-12 public education. So those are a couple of different directions. Within the lesson plan as it's written, they do have some more directions that you could take this, but step 4 was generate solutions. So your students may come up with something that they didn't think of as well. What questions do you have about the lesson plan overview?
I'm sorry if you said this before, but how long is this lesson kind of planned for?
Let's see. What did they tell us? Okay, so it's approximate instruction time.
Oh, yeah,
days.
okay. I was going to say, this seems like longer than a one class.
Yeah, this is not a 1 hour. I'll tell you that. And the thing is, when you work in a context where your class period is a set time of 1.5 hours or something like that, if you want to go through the entirety of this, you divide it up over a period of time. Or you may wish to select specific sections of it and not do every step of the lesson plan. That's another option, just shortening it down, deciding which is most relevant to your students. But that's a great question, Nadia. What other questions do you all have? So as we're
A quiet group.
everybody's quiet, I know. What we're going to do next is we're actually going to look at the jigsaw reading. And as we're looking at that and thinking about the different pieces of the lesson, I want you to keep in mind, what skills would your students, what transferable skills would your students be picking up in this lesson plan? So the jigsaw reading, let's go to the next page. The jigsaw reading is right here, and I'm going to put this in chat for, nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry about that.
Should probably maybe just do one section of this.
Yeah, I know we're gonna be time limited. Okay, so what we're gonna do is in the chat you should see a link right now, and the link in the chat will bring you to the reading. And I was gonna, like I said, I was gonna divide it up as a jigsaw, but we don't have so many people in the group. So let me get this back into slideshow mode. Okay. All right. So right here, you can see with the setting the public agenda, the reading, they're going to outline these different areas: right to officials, letter writing campaign, petitioning, email and telephone campaign, and demonstrations. And the idea is, what is this this strategy, and when may it best be used? And then what are some important considerations with the strategy? And just to kind of put it together as a group, let's all go ahead and read just section A. So if you want to click on the link in the chat and read just the section A, and then we'll come back and compare. So I'll give you guys probably I'm going to say about 5 minutes to do the reading, because it's not super long. It's about a paragraph. And if you want to signal to me when you're finished, you can just, there's like the raise hand. You can just raise hand if you want to signal to me when you finish getting through just section A. Hopefully we're going to have Sawad come back. I think she may have, I think the buttons may have messed up.
Yeah.
Okay. I know. Participation's not working well. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll start right here. Nancy, you want to take question number 1, please? Nancy, do you want to take question number 1, please?
Me, Nancy, or somebody else,
No,
Nancy?
you. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. Yeah, there's only one
Okay.
Nancy now on the call.
Oh, okay. I can't see that. I'm doing this on my phone, so I'm a little
Oh
bit.
dear. Okay, great. Yes, we have our
I'm a
challenges.
little
All right.
hampered. Okay. So I'm going to be talking about what is it and when may it be best used, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now I have to go back to my document. Give me a second here. Okay, so what is it? Writing to officials is just contacting, in this case, senators, representatives, the government, the governor, depending on who it is, to let them know what your opinion is on something. And they do keep track of who contacts them and what they say. Most will also get back to you. So it's a good way of getting your opinions in front of these people. And so then it's, when is it used? When may it best be used?
Mhm.
I think it's best used or when you stick to one topic, when you have one thing that you're going to tell them about, and you can kind of focus on that issue.
Right, right. I agree with you. And I also would add with this, just as an ESL teacher, and I'm sure you probably do this as well, but and also if you have Spanish speaking HSE students, that anybody can write to officials. They're not checking people's citizenship if you send your letter in. So I think it's really important that everyone realizes they can have a voice even if they don't necessarily have the ability to vote in the United States.
Right.
Okay, Nadia, you want to talk a little bit about the important considerations?
Sure. The important considerations is to know ahead of time of what you want to talk about, because as Nancy mentioned, focusing on one issue is important so that your message isn't convoluted. Yeah. I would also say that important consideration may be timing, because sending a letter a day before something might get signed in, like a budget or a new whatever, that it probably wouldn't be read until it's too late. So it's thinking about when you're when you need to know what you have to talk about. So you have to be like you have to understand the situation, understand your take on it, and send it within a certain time frame so that it is read and it is documented that you are one of many people who are concerned.
Right. They're in a better position to take action before the vote versus after the vote, which is another piece of the lesson that you're sharing with your students. Like, what is their decision-making process? So great social studies content there for the HSE folks. Also, if you ever end up teaching citizenship, I know we don't, that's not the thing we teach most commonly, but this really flows very well with citizenship and what's on the citizenship test too, the questions about the levels of government. Okay. So when you're thinking about this lesson, definitely I would encourage you to consider like what are those extra components that fit with what your students want to learn. Also, if you teach a lesson like this on a topic that may not have occurred to your students, it is the perfect opportunity to make that clear to them. These are the skills that we are also learning within the context of this lesson plan. These are the skills that you will find on the HSE test, or the content you will find on the HSE test. These are the things you are learning to say and do in English that you might not have had experience with before. Okay, for example, writing a business style letter to an official for an intermediate or an advanced ESL class. That's perfect for this. The tone and language, awareness of audience, another thing that's perfect for this. All right, Bill, you're up. Bill, you're silent.
About that. Sorry. These are the 9 skills that TSTM specifies as being foundational for an adult learner to function effectively within our society. Early on, we saw SOAD mention problem solving and critical thinking. I mean, those are the 2 I see all the time pop up. If you were to ask an employer what skills they want of an employee, I want somebody to solve my problem. But there's, others, respecting differences, self-awareness, analyzing information, adaptability, communication, navigating systems. So I would ask, we're down to 2 now, what skills would have been brought to bear in this lesson plan if we were to adopt it? Obviously, communication, I'll start that one off, but someone else add something.
I would say analyzing information.
And how would that be brought to bear?
In this case, we're looking at exactly what the suggestion is by the paper and how we use it, or how we can use it.
How we can use it, exactly. Any other skills?
Ideally, almost all of them, I think. They'd be learning about navigating systems by learning what officials to contact. If I live in New Mexico, I'm not going to contact a senator from Arizona necessarily. He might be interested, but my own senators are going to be more interested, and it would be better if I understand the system.
Right, yeah. And I forget who said it, but, all politics is local. But you both brought out, I think, an important point to the skills, and the fact that, let's just take one skill, communication. And if we were just to define communication, in a nutshell, it's conveying information. But in a civics class, which this would be under the rubric of the TSTM, what would communication then be? It changes, it morphs a little bit. So if we were to take communication in this lesson, what would communication then transform into? So let me give an example for digital literacy then. If communication is conveying information in a digital literacy class, it might be using the appropriate technology. Maybe on a workforce preparation, it might change into, speaking, writing, and clearly, speaking, writing, and listening carefully, follow the instructions. So in the civics class, I might say that it would be sharing ideas within the community, the larger community, your education community. Problem solving basically is the development of a solution, but in a workforce preparation, it's all about efficiency and economy. So when we talk about the different skills, we have to think outside the box sort of as into what context these are actually going to be used. And the other thing is that not all the skills will be used in a lesson plan. When I first took the course, I thought, well, I have to fit all 9 of these in there. No, you don't. 3, maybe 4 biggies in there, and then concentrate on how they're going to impact you. The other thing are the 5 topics. We advance one more slide. And these are the crucial topics that TSTM thinks apply to parents, workers, and citizens within the U.S. is health literacy, workforce prep, financial literacy, digital skills, and civics education. This lesson here was civics education, but we really got into a little bit of digital skills as far as if we were going to email or do a mass mailing to these officials that we determined should get our message. The other aspect that we're not really talking about right now are the three approaches that TSTM uses, is contextualized learning, problem-based, and project-based lesson plans. And you don't have to start with any one. You could wake up in the morning and say, I think we ought to have a letter writing project to our officials because, our funding is going to be cut. So you're starting at the approach and then ending up, okay, we're going to talk about civics education because it's going to be our skills. And then you go back down to the skills and say, okay, what skills am I really going to improve? Likewise, you could wake up one day and say, I really think that we should, learn about digital skills, create a graph like we did early on in this class. You're starting with the topic, digital skills, what approach you're going to use. Could be a project based or it could be contextualized. And then what skills are you actually going to use? Analyzing information, navigating the system. How does Excel really work that we could play around to get the thought we want? We're going to just a one-dimensional pie chart or three-dimensional. Really opens up into a whole world of thinking outside the box. And that's it. Any questions on that?
Yeah, we're at 3 minutes, so I want to look into my last one here. All right, as we promised, the full lesson plan is available to you. You get this lesson plan by going to the link that's right here, and then you have to choose the Civics Education Raising Public Awareness lesson plan because their page is very extensive, okay? And I'm going to turn this to Tina because she wants to give you guys information about making sure you get credit for this webinar in Propel.
Great. So today is the day for technical difficulties. So I have the survey prepared in Propel, and I want to tell you on my end, it looks beautiful. But then I log in as a student and I can't seem to access it. So I am going to send out an email, and since we'll also be posting the recording in Propel, I will send all of the information. If you don't already have an account in the Propel PD portal, I will send you information how to get enrolled. It's a very quick process. And then how to access, of course, this course, which is going to be the TSTM webinars. And then you'll complete a very short survey on the webinar just to give us some feedback and, of course, what you're going to do with the information from this. Want to thank you so much for participating today and look forward to seeing you more often.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Really, really great stuff. Take care.
Tina, are you